Hello, dear students. How are you? I hope all of you are fine. And I request everyone to pay attention while watching these videos. Dear students, in the last class we were discussed about the background of the economic reforms, why there was a need of economic reforms in India, what were the reasons behind that. We have understood all those aspects in the last class. Today, let us start with the main important part of the economic reforms, that is LPG. What I said in the last class, LPG in the sense liberalization, privatization and globalization. These are the three important features of economic reforms. These are the pillars of economic reforms. So entire reforms of the country after 1991 depended on these three important features. Let us start with the first feature, that is liberalization. Liberalization is nothing but giving greater freedom to economic agents to take their own decisions. Through liberalization in 1991, under the banner of economic reforms, what government has done here? Government has given the greater freedom to economic agents, means private entrepreneurs. Private entrepreneurs have got the freedom to take their own independent decisions in their productive process, in their production process. And the role of government was minimized. There is no active role taken by the government in the activities of private entrepreneurs. And it is also defined as to put an end to the restrictions and opening up the economy. Earlier, before 1991, in pre-90s, if you are having a look on pre-90s atmosphere of India, there was a closed economy. Closed means there were many restrictions, rules and laws. Each and every private entrepreneur should follow that restrictions. That situation is called as a closed economy. Now, the purpose behind liberalization is to open up the economy. Open up means free up the economy for everyone. It is because of what? It is because to invite private entrepreneurs to invest their own capital in the private sector. The purpose behind removal of all these restrictions is to increase the capital investment in the industrial sector. You know why? As I said in the beginning, in the previous classes, India is a labor-oriented country. It is always lacking with capital investment. When private entrepreneurs are holding huge amount of capital investment, to make them invest, to encourage them, Government of India has decided to remove all restrictions over industrial sector. Okay, so because of that, Government of India has brought and put an end to the restrictions to make India towards developing country, for example. Now look at the areas of liberalization. What are the areas which were covered under liberalization? Out of it, the first one, deregulation of industrial sector. Deregulation of industrial sector in the sense, whatever regulations were there in the industrial sector, we have to remove all those regulations. That is called as deregulation of industrial sector. In India, most of the areas were come under regulatory mechanism before 1991. As I said, in pre-90s, most of the areas, most of these sectors were comes under a regulatory mechanism. Everything, every aspect of the activities are completely under the control of government in pre-90s. What were the regulatory activities in pre-90s? If you are having a look on that, look at the following regulatory aspects of India in pre-90s. The first regulatory aspect of India in pre-1991 was industrial licensing. Industrial licensing in the sense we have to take permission, we have to take license from government to start any kind of business. Industrial licensing covers the area where we have to follow rules and regulations of government, under which every entrepreneur had to get government permission to start and close the firm and to decide the amount of goods and services. If we are going to start a new firm, new unit, if we are going to establish a new industrial unit, we have to take prior permission to the government, from the government, okay? And if you are going to close the firm, then also you have to take government permission for that matter. And what amount of goods you are going to produce, which product you are going to produce, when and where you are going to start the business, what is the capital investment for that, what all infrastructure you required. You have to provide all these informations before government before going to start the business. So these are some restrictions in case of industrial licensing. When you are going to start industrial unit, you will have to take all these permissions. But what happens here? When we are restricting a particular person, a single individual or else a private entrepreneur, his efficiency goes on decreasing. So to minimize his inefficiency and to maximize his efficiency, Government of India has decided to deregulate industrial sector. So in pre-90s, the first and foremost regulation was put on the industrial sector, that is industrial licensing. Coming to the second regulatory aspect of industrial sector, that is private sector was not allowed in many industries. Okay, private sector was not given permission to take part, to invest in most of the public sector units. And all public sector units were controlled and managed by only government before 1991. And third important aspect of deregulation of industrial sector was some goods were reserved for only small scale industries. There are n number of goods and services producing in the entire country. Out of that different goods and services, few goods and services were kept reserved for only SSI, means small scale industries. Other than SSIs, no other industries not to produce those goods without the permission of government. Coming to the fourth one, that is control on fixation of price and distribution of selected industrial products. Whatever goods and services produced by private entrepreneurs, the price of that goods must be fixed by government. Private entrepreneurs not having any freedom to fix price for their own product. Government is to fix the price of different products in the economy. And distribution of selected industrial products. Private entrepreneurs were given permission to produce only those selected products. Out of that, other than that, they are not supposed to produce any goods and services without the government permission. So this is about the deregulation of industrial sector in pre-1991. It means before 1991, what were the regulations on industrial sector? Okay, now coming to the next aspect, how these regulations were removed immediately after 1991. Especially when new economic policy introduced on 24th of July 1991, these policy resolutions were very strong in case of liberalization, privatization and globalization. In the liberalization part, after 1991, all those restrictions were removed. Whatever restrictions I said in the beginning, those restrictions were completely removed. And industrial licensing system was completely abolished. Except few industries. This industrial licensing system was abolished for all the industrial sectors, industrial units, except few industries like alcohol, hazardous chemicals, industrial explosives, electronics, aerospace industries, drugs industries, etc. But at present, only defense equipments, atomic energy and railway industries are reserved for public sector. In the beginning of 1991, when new NEP policy was introduced, except 17 industries, all other industries were given in the hands of private sector. And simultaneously, these 17 industries were declined. The number of industries reserved for public sector were declined from 17 to 8, 8 to 5. Now these are only 3, for example, that is defense equipments, atomic energy and railway industries are reserved for public sector. Except these 3 industries, all other industries were given in the hands of private entrepreneurs. This is all about the industrial sector reforms during 1991. Okay, now coming to the second aspect of the economic reforms, that is financial sector reforms. If you are looking at financial sector reforms, this was the main area to bring drastic changes and immediate changes in the financial sector, because financial sector was very poor in pre-90s and immediately after independence. To make a patchwork on that particular area, Government of India has decided to bring reforms, strong reforms in financial sector. Financial sector includes the financial institutions like commercial banks, investment banks, stock exchange operations and foreign exchange market. These are the areas of financial sector. Okay, all banks and financial institutions, including commercial banks. There are some investment banks, they are investing only funds. They never borrow, they never receive deposits from customers. They are going to invest, for example. And stock exchange operations and foreign exchange markets. The financial sector in India is regulated by RBI. This thing you have to understand. The entire financial activities, the financial sector of India is always regulated by RBI, means Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India is the prime bank. It is the central bank. It is the regulatory bank for all other banking activities in the entire country. These banks and institutions are regulated through RBI norms. Whatever rules and regulations are there, whatever rules and regulations and the norms prescribed by the Reserve Bank of India, those must be followed by all other banks and financial institutions. Under the guidelines of Reserve Bank of India, each bank should work on. If it is not following the norms of RBI, RBI has the complete control over that particular bank to stop the activities. Okay, so each and every banks and institutions should follow the norms of Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India decides the amount of money to be kept with banks. What amount of money each bank should keep with its for its day-to-day transactions, that can be fixed by RBI. Okay, And also the most important aspect, that is rate of interest and the nature of lending. The rate of interest of all banks is decided by a Reserve Bank of India. What rate should be given for deposits, customer deposits, and what rates to be received by lendings of banks, and what rates should be there, rates are there in case of FDs, for example, or else recurring deposits. All these rate of interest is fixed by RBI itself. And the nature of lending. Nature of lending in the sense, for whom how much loan should be given. On the basis of the activities of the customers, on the basis of the business of the customers, on the basis of nature of activities of all the borrowers, loans will be sanctioned. One of the major aim of financial sector reforms is to minimize the role of RBI. What was the purpose behind financial sector reforms? Is to minimize the role of Reserve Bank of India in banking sector or else financial sector. Okay. And playing a role, RBI is to play the role of facilitator, not a role of regulator. Earlier in pre-1991, RBI was acting as a regulatory bank. After 1991, it has become the facilitator bank. There is a lot of difference between a regulator and facilitator. A regulator means controlling everything. Facilitator means giving freedom to each bank to take their own independent decisions in their banking matters. Okay. So because of that, Government of India has decided to minimize the role of RBI from a regulator to facilitator, and giving freedom to banks to take their own decisions in the financial matters. Whatever matters are there in case of financial aspects, each bank can take their own decision. So this permission freedom is given to all the banks immediately after 1991 under the head of financial sector reforms. These reforms policies led to the establishment of new private sector banks. See, once these reforms policies were implemented, these influenced the establishment of new private sector banks. New private sector banks were established immediately after 91 because of this freedom given to them. And foreign investment limits are raised around 50%. Whoever is investing, foreigner, for example, foreign investor is investing in Indian, for example, industrial sector or else in any other financial sector, they will be given permission up to 50%. Okay, 50% of foreign investment is permitted. And these banks have given freedom to set up new branches on certain conditions. Whatever branches are going to start, if the banks are going to increase the number of branches, they have to take prior permission from RBI. But here, after 1991, in financial sector reforms, what Government of India has decided, while increasing the number of branches, banks do not wait for the permission of RBI. They can increase the number of branches in different areas where there is no banking facilities, but on certain conditions. And also given permission to generate funds from India and abroad. If they are lacking with funds, they can generate that funds, they can mobilize bank funds, for example, from local India and also from abroad on their own risk, for example. And RBI only acts as a safeguard for the account holders. The main role of RBI immediately after 1991 when NEP introduced in India, the major role of RBI was to become the safeguard for account holders. RBI has taken the care of only the customers, account holders, not customers, sorry, account holders of different banks. For example, different banks, each bank should have their own account in the RBI. That care is taken by RBI. And foreign institutional investors, FII, can invest their money in merchant banking, mutual funds and pension funds. They can invest all these funds, for example, in financial market. Okay, this is the financial market. FII, foreign institutional investment or investors, investment is the financial market by which foreigners can invest their money. So this is all about the financial sector reforms. With this, we'll stop for today's discussion. Remaining part we shall discuss in the next class.